Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. So today, my name is Aldy and I'm from University State of Gorontalo in English department. Okay, today I'm gonna talking about, well, as you can see from this slide, we're gonna talking about passive voice. Now, as I mentioned earlier, now before we begin, I think that we need to address what is passive voice. Now, what is the definition? The definition is, now here's what I got from the dictionary. According to Cambridge Dictionary, passive voice is the relationship between a subject and a verb in which the subject receives the action of the verb. So it basically means that in some conversation, like we used to say that, oh, I go to school. See, I. That basically me, the subject. But how about we change the position? How if I go to school? We're talking about the school itself. Okay, that's the school I go to. Now that. So basically, it doesn't have to be me, right? It doesn't have to be the subject always be in front. When the object is in the front, it usually become a passive. Jadi dalam passive voice itu aksi yang kita maksudkan jadi subjeknya tidak melakukan satu tindakan, tapi lebih kepada objeknya. Ya. Okay, next is the usage. Now, in what condition do we use a passive voice? First, to explain or describe a process. For an example, when you wanna say, oh, before we cook rice, right? Before we cook rice, we should wash it, flush it, and etc. Basically, just like that. Jadi kita menggambarkan semacam proses daripada objek tersebut. The next is to make a statement more objective. Nah, ini pada dasarnya kita membuat satu statement, satu pernyataan itu lebih objektif dan tidak membuatnya seakan-akan subjektif. Hal ini yang biasanya kita sering dapatkan dalam pernyataan-pernyataan resmi. Next is as a written format for scientific or academic letters. Nah, dalam banyak makalah ataupun artikel yang bersifat ilmiah atau akademik atau yang resmi, formal, right? We always find this form of passive voice. When we're talking about now, as I mentioned earlier, when we're talking about passive voice, it's basically just the object. We describe an object, right? But in active voice, we describe our action. I go to school. But when we're talking about passive voice, we're talking about, oh, that's the school where I go. Just like that. Basically, now, dalam hal ini, as a written format for scientific academic letter, pada dasarnya lebih banyak digunakan dalam bentuk-bentuk formal, artikel-artikel akademis, ataupun yang bersifat saintifik. Okay, now next is, formula and example. Now, as you can see, the formula is basically just object plus to be and plus verb, 3 plus by, and object pronoun. Now here's the question: is there only one formula? Yes and no. Why do I say yes? Yes, because as you can see, I just give it one formula. But I will say no, because if you might notice, I only giving it to be. After the object, I only giving to be. For an example, oh, that's the school that I've gone. And, jadi tergantung daripada bentuk kalimatnya, depend on what form of the tenses that you wanna use. It will change. For example, if you're saying in present tense, right? MR is, or in the past, was, were, or future, shall or will, right? That's why I'll say that when you want to ask me a question, is there only one formula in there? Yes and no. Yes, because obviously. No, because depend on the tenses, the formula is changed. That's why I only using a universally understandable words that I say, which I'm using to be. Now, let us see the example. Now, here's the example. If I have mentioned it earlier, we're talking about the process, right? Process of an object. After the cocoa have been picked, they are washed and roasted. Jadi setelah coklat cocoa dipetik, dia dibersihkan, dicuci, kemudian dibakar, roast, right? So the action, tindakannya itu bukan pada orang, bukan pada subject, but the cocoa itself, right? The object. Now the second is several people were arrested and they will be held in custody overnight. The second one. And the third is the food is cooked by Anna. So if it was like this, right? It is a very easy form to understand for me personally. Even though I don't learn English as formal as possible. Like, well, even though right now I still forgot some tenses formula. Just kidding. Not really. But I do understand this very easily because, well, it's not that complicated. It's basically just we are describing an object or objectify sentence, right? When you usually say, "Oh, I eat a banana," oh, that is an active voice, right? That is an active voice. Active speech, sorry, active voice or active speech, whatever. They are just the same. But when we turn it into passive form, it would become that's the banana I ate. That's easy, right? You don't need to, how do I say it? You don't need to remember all the formula I've given to you before. You just need to remember, okay, if I'm gonna say in active voice, it need to engage with me. The sentence is engaging with me or in a subject. But if it is passive, it doesn't have to be engaging with me, but it needs to be engaged with the object we are talking about. And in this case, the example that I've given you for an example, example 1, cocoa, and the arrested, and the food. Okay, and that's all for the passive voice, passive speech. And thank you for your attention. I guess it is very short. I mean, like, come on, it is very short. But I hope that from here you could understand a bit about passive voice. And thank you for listening. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.